Okay, 55 more DoorDashes and I think we can get the base model. With the recent reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2 and its $90 games, it's kind of got me reminiscing on the good times of Nintendo. The funny skits and commercials Nintendo, the fan-loving quirky Nintendo, the Nintendo that cared just a little bit more about their community of fans. Because trust me, there used to be a time where Nintendo would discount their games tremendously. And not any of this little Mario Day 10% off a 6-year-old Switch game either. No, no, no. I'm talking about the time Nintendo would discount a top-rated game at such a high rate, it was practically unbelievable to consumers. This discount program was created back in 1996 and was originally called Player's Choice. It was given to the Super Nintendo and Game Boy games at the time that had sold over 1 million copies and was depicted with a golden ribbon plastered right on top of the box and cartridge. It was a way for Nintendo to keep their sales going for their most popular titles. Because think about it, either you could keep a game at its original value for years to come once its popularity has already kind of died down a bit, or you could significantly drop the price, get new players to see why this game was so popular in the first place, and then you could hopefully reel them in to, buy some other games while they're at it. It's a pretty smart deal for both Nintendo and their consumers. The Player's Choice program would stick around for quite some time as well. Following up from the Super Nintendo a few years after, the Nintendo 64 would join in on the fun, getting a few price cuts on its biggest sellers. Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time being probably the two biggest ones at the time, obviously. And a little bit later, in 2003, the GameCube would be included, slashing prices down to $30 for some of the best GameCube games ever made. Luigi's Mansion, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Pikmin. $30 for some top-rated Nintendo gameplay is probably something you'll never see in modern days. Unless it's like an indie game and, now they give you some of the best experiences that, these higher companies they can't give anymore. Soon after, in 2006, the Game Boy Advance would get the discount applied, slashing prices down to $20 for some of its best titles. You can include Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green on this list. For $20 each, hello? That's crazy. You mean to tell me that almost 12 million copies of Fire Red and Leaf Green have been sold, and now if I go to eBay almost 20 years after these games have been out, there's a 500% markup on them? Make it make sense. We're going to retro game stores and buying up every single Pokemon game so that we can sell them on Amazon. Don't you just love those videos now? All things were great for consumers at the time. Until it wasn't. What's odd is that during Nintendo's DS era, there didn't seem to be a discounted choice of select games at all. Probably due to the fact that the DS was one of Nintendo's most successful consoles at the time. Literally, that thing was printing money for Nintendo. But if they were to stand by that logic, then how come whenever the Nintendo Wii came out, that console got its own version of Nintendo's Player's Choice? In 2011, the original Player's Choice program would be rebranded to what is now known as the Nintendo Selects program. Really, there was nothing different to this program besides the name change and, the cover arts getting a different look to them. Trust me now when I say this, modern day retro collectors hate this cover art variant as well. Where the 90s era of Nintendo had a cute little ribbon on the front showing that, hey, I'm much cheaper now because millions of people have enjoyed my gameplay. The 2000s Nintendo got this horrible, disgusting banner just plastered at the top of the game's box art, just screaming at you. I don't know what it was screaming, but this is such an ugly design choice. For instance, a lot of the GameCube collectors do not like the Player's Choice variants because not only do you have this big yellow border on the front, but also the spine of the game has it, which throws off your collection if it's sitting up on a shelf. The 2010s does not get any better either. With a new name for this discount program, Nintendo Selects would get rid of this silly little yellow banner and instead opt for a very large border, one that would shrink down the original box art in the middle. And oh wait, get this. Now there's a little banner hanging off the top letting you know that this is a discounted game. The Wii had it for its games, the 3DS had it for its games, and finally the Wii U had it for its games. But what about the Switch? Oh my goodness. Why weren't any Switch titles added into Nintendo's line of discounted games? Although a not so amusing box art can turn buyers away from it, I feel like this problem is only really relevant to those that collect games instead of, actually playing the games. That's a conversation for another time. But truly think about it. The Player's Choice and Nintendo Selects programs were created to give consumers a second chance when it came to playing some of the top-rated games that, a system had. Hey, you weren't able to play this top-rated game because you don't have enough money? Well, here's that same game from a few years ago at now a highly discounted price. But really, were these programs just about the price, or were they about giving access to players? So if the Nintendo Switch is such a family console that Nintendo likes to advertise it to be, why hasn't Nintendo discounted any of the titles that have sold like millions upon millions of copies? Literally, there are like 20 games alone that have sold over 10 million copies each. Almost half of those games have sold over 20 million copies each, and practically the top 5 of those have sold over 30 million copies each. If we compare the Nintendo Switch to the likes of the Nintendo DS, both consoles have sold quite a bit of units and have done pretty well for Nintendo as a company. Over 150 million systems sold for each console is groundbreaking for Nintendo. But once again, is it because both of these systems are like money printers for Nintendo that they don't even have to worry about trying to boost sales? From a business standpoint, this totally makes sense. If the games are still selling practically 8 years later at full price, why should we drop it at all for consumers? But from a consumer standpoint, why should I have to pay full price for a game that is almost a full decade in age? I think we're definitely in a weird era for Nintendo, and the pricing of the Nintendo Switch and all of its games right now kind of proves it. The push to include Wii Sports as a pack-in title with the Wii was a genius idea Reggie Fils-Aimé brought to the table. It's surprising yet sad that Nintendo now seems more focused on squeezing consumers as much as they can. Charging $10 for a playable Switch 2 guide is literally criminal. Every time I've been asked about the Switch 2's pricing, I suppose my take on it is a little bit more copium. Because I feel like if the average US household wasn't struggling so much to buy necessities, then maybe the pricing wouldn't be as egregious for everyone. Who knows? With the backwards compatibility that the Switch 2 will have, maybe there's a chance that Nintendo will finally decide to start dropping the prices on some of the Switch 1 games. I say this, but then I remember that games such as Breath of the Wild and Kirby and the Forgotten Lands are getting $30 upgraded versions that you'll have to still purchase if you already own them. So I mean, playing them at higher quality for like more money, that's worth it, right? I don't know. Maybe Nintendo's origins with giving their consumers a discounted price with their Player's Choice and Nintendo Selects programs is a thing of the past now. Hopefully they haven't given up entirely on their ideology of giving everyone the chance to play their games, because truly Nintendo games are like a whole different standard when it comes to just gaming in general. It'd be nice to see them go back and give players some cheaper options. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all very much. I started up like a little support tier. If you guys want to help support me, I guess it would help me see if people really care to see more videos. Either way, if you watched all the way through, I appreciate you all very much. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! That was too much coffee. Holy Jesus.